You know what? I'm going to get started because I have some questions lined up for you. And I'm so excited because I think I'm going to learn a lot. And the reason why I'm even more excited about this is because we're trying to pilot an ABM strategy at Unibody where I work. We're experimenting with only one region to figure out how it should work, what is the setup, the data that is needed, and the technology. So I think I'm going to take some key takeaways from this back to my job and back to the team. Maybe it'll be helpful. Awesome. So, okay, cool. So today, obviously, components of a successful ABM strategy. I am so happy you are our subject matter expert today. I'm going to properly introduce you. So today, everyone, we are joined by 2-times author, Flip My Funnel podcast host, and co-founder of Terminus, Sangram Vajre. And just tell me, how do you pronounce your last name so I'm pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, no, I think you did great, Vajre. That's right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I was almost going to pronounce it the Eastern European way, where the J is actually a Y.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't heard that before too, like Ware or different things. So I just say Sangram here and keep going.
Awesome. Well, so thank you so much. I want to give you a few minutes to just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you do, talk about Terminus, and then we can dive right into the questions.
All right, sounds good. Well, again, thanks for having me. I think it's been really interesting in the last 5 years because prior to this, I ran marketing at Parda, and we got acquired by ExactTarget. Then we got acquired by Salesforce. So I come from the dinosaur industry, if you will, of marketing automation, and been really interesting because a lot more companies now are moving, honestly, away from marketing automation, which is a topic in itself. And the whole story of Terminus was that once I was sitting with my team at Salesforce, and we hit every single record, Maria, every single one, like number of leads, number of webinar downloads, ebooks, everything. And the head of sales said, well, that's fantastic, but can you generate 1,000 more leads next month? And to me, I'm like, wait a minute, we just did 30,000 leads or whatever we did at that month or that quarter. And I'm like, why? Why do we need more? And his point was, well, because we did this spreadsheet and there are all these numbers and our numbers are going up, so we need more leads. We're not even following up on all the ones that we already have. Yeah. We're not moving. It's like 7, 8, 9, 10x the number of what you really need. So that led me to understanding that at that moment, I was nobody other than a coin-operated lead machine. Mm. So me and my whole team could have been completely replaced by a bunch of lead hackers, if you will. And that just wasn't acceptable to me anymore. So that led me to the journey of identifying there got to be a better way to recognize that your job as a marketer or your role as a marketer is to drive business outcomes. And I wanted to find a way to get closer to the revenue, not by all these vanity metrics that can very easily be put in a spreadsheet, but really let's just talk about the accounts that salespeople focus on. So that led me to write the first book, ABM, and then the second book, ABM is B2B, and it's just a bunch of experiences coming all together.
It is true. You really bring a good point because I think day to day we do drown in those, nice looking, dreamy KPIs, right? And when it comes down to really, truly understanding the activities behind those KPIs and how much they contribute to the pipeline, how much they contribute to brand affinity, and which I think are those two most important things in marketing really is someone remembering your brand and your product and also the revenue part. How much is that really the true sort of metrics that we should be living in?
Yeah, and at the same time, I would say that, in my book, ABM is B2B, I wrote like the first thing is the value of marketing is defined by sales. And I mean it, and I get a lot of, people, marketers specifically like, oh my God, no, we do so much more. But the reason I say that is because ultimately your job is to drive business outcomes and results. But there's a better way than just driving a bunch of leads. There's a better way than having a ton of traffic to the website as a key metric. It's really not. Yeah. So it's been a very interesting journey in the last 10 years of being a marketer, of trying to plant the flag like we need leads when I was at marketing automation, and that's what I represented, to like, no, we need actually better leads and a better accounts and better conversations.
Right. Yeah, speaking of Parda, I came across a conference that is happening, I think, virtually in December, and it's called Parda Dreaming. And I applied to speak, and hopefully my session will be accepted. But the title is Keeping It Real About Parda. So to those of you, those new marketers that don't know about Parda, let me tell you something.
There you go. Like, it's come a long way. It's funny enough, I'm interviewing on live, talking about LinkedIn Live before we started to get into this. Mike Costa, who is the GM and who runs Parda now at Salesforce, he and I are going to do live talking about 2021 and what it comes, I think, in November 14th or something like that.
Awesome. I'm going to join that because I have some questions about that.
Yeah, jump in.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's jump into our questions. And by the way, for those who are joining us in the audience, send in your questions in the chat or even Q&A. Don't wait until the end. We like we said earlier, this is going to be an interactive chat. This is not a traditional old style webinar. So definitely send in your comments. So first, I'm going to call it the elephant in the room. Let's address the elephant in the room. Is ABM a myth?
Well, I mean, I'm glad I wrote the second book, ABM is B2B, because I just called it. It's funny, I think Gartner or Forrester put out a quote, I think literally last month, saying that by 2023 or 2024, that there won't be any ABM. It will be B2B. I'm like, great, you finally followed through. I wrote a book on that 2 years ago. I think most salespeople have been doing account-based marketing from beginning of the sales career. Let's just think about it this way. The title of the salesperson in your organization is what?
Chief Revenue Officer, Head of Sales.
The sales rep. What is their title?
So right now.
Yeah.
So we actually have different titles. No, we try to veer away from the SDR and sales exec type titles. And for instance, well, I work at Unibuddy, which is an edtech company. We have tools for universities, and so our sales execs are actually called university partner managers and partnership managers, and our SDRs are called university partnership executives, because we do really feel like we are partnering together. We are partners in terms of making sure you have a great student experience for your students, making sure that you are conveying the right kind of messaging and you're meeting students where they are, which is what the product does. So we did get a little bit creative with those titles.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, when I started looking into it, majority of the companies would have a title of account executive for the sales team. And that was the answer. I'm like, wait a minute. The title of the salespeople is account executive. So they already understood accounts. It's really the marketing team who never understood that we need to give them accounts, not random leads. So your sales team, if you ask them who are your top 10 accounts, I guarantee they don't have to look at any CRM or anything. They would just tell you, because they know what those top 10 accounts are. But marketing keeps giving them a ton of different leads from all these different places. They're like, no, I need to close these 10 deals so I can actually meet my quota so I can have a job. And that is what's missing in it. So is ABM is a myth? No, ABM is not a myth. What's myth is in many ways that we focus on leads, and it gives us a false sense of security that we're driving business. Most salespeople don't even follow up. That's why there are all these MQL, SQL, SLA. If you think about it, why do you have laws? We have laws because people sometimes don't follow it. And if it's going to save your life, why wouldn't you follow it, right? Why wouldn't you do all these things? So laws and SLAs exist to make sure you don't do certain things. But if you work with a salesperson and tell them, hey, look, tell me the 5 accounts you're working on, and let me find ways to engage with these 5 accounts for you. Let me create a webinar just for this 5 accounts. Let me do a one-to-one podcast with them. Let me maybe create a piece of content that is specifically about their industry for that particular account.
Mhm.
chances are the salesperson will be all over it. The account that they're working with, they will love it because it's so personalized, and they'll probably win the deal.
It's true.
But most marketing organizations don't do that. They, like, you ask a marketing team right now, you're in October right now, how many accounts do you want to close by the end of the year? And are you as a marketing team working on those 20 or 30 accounts?
Yeah.
Chances are 99% of the accounts, the company's marketing team is thinking about 2021 and creating another program, but not focused on the 50 accounts that your sales team need to close in order for you to meet your revenue goals.
That's true. And what's your opinion about, I hear this sometimes, well, if your ACV isn't big enough, it's probably not worth investing in creating this entire ABM strategy and intricate workflows and nurture programs based on, buyer persona or account or whatever. What's your take on that? Does your ACV really have to be that large in order for ABM to work? Or can startups with a one-person marketing team actually make this happen and be successful?
Well, what's your ACV when you guys try to do ABM?
So right now our ACV is right around 12,000.
Okay. So here's what I've seen work, and thousands of examples, as you know, just having these conversations. It's really not depending upon the size of your company. It depends on the size of the value for the customers that you're trying to sell to. For example, HubSpot, let's just take that as an example.
Yeah.
HubSpot, if they're given that they sell to a lot of SMB companies, they do have an enterprise team now, but majority of their customers are SMB. Even though HubSpot is a big company, they won't be the best example to do ABM, because they're only targeting to someone who is having a transactional $100,000-$200,000 a month kind of deal.
Yeah.
But for the enterprise company, makes sense. So what I've seen is, at a minimum, if it is 25K or less ACV, your ability to have return the focus, the amount of time and effort it takes, really struggles. I've seen that happen over and over again, where companies are like, if it's not 25K, if it's 50K and above, it's even better. The reason it doesn't work as well initially, unless the team is fully bought into it, like, that's the exception. But majority of the times, you need to show ROI very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the ROI for most companies are, show me the number of leads, show me the amount of engagement on these accounts, and it's a fast-paced model. Well, if you're going that fast, it's really hard to create these personalized experiences that can have an impact, where there are 6, 8, 9 people in the decision-making process. That all takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it depends not only on the size of the deal, it depends on the amount of time it takes. So the minimum bar for this is, at a minimum, try to see if your account ACV is 25K. The second one I would say would be, like, if it's at least 3 to 6 months or more is how much your sales cycle is. If it's too short, like if it's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or people can just go online and buy, ABM is not for you. You need to have that sales process part of it. And at a minimum, there are 4 or 5 people in the decision-making process. If these 3 things are true, ABM will work wonders for you. If any of these 3 things are kind of, not at the right place, then I think what you will see is that you need a ton of sales and marketing focused, aligned on it. Your marketer and your sales leader have to be bought into this idea. That's when it will become successful. But those 3 things are kind of the criteria for most companies right now.
I like that. Yeah, thanks for actually confirming that, because you hear things, and marketing is such a fast-paced world. Today this methodology works, tomorrow it doesn't, and even if it works, there's some fine print in there that says, oh, this is not for you. So I like that you actually confirmed the ACV part, and that it makes sense. It really does. And this actually brings me to the next question. And I realized that I've written my questions with a little bit of humor. So hear me out. Much like some pharma products, ABM isn't for everyone. And I think you just confirmed this. You confirmed this from your answer just now. But what are some side effects of ABM that we can look out for? Like, let's say, okay, we went for it anyway. Okay, we didn't meet the criteria, but there is buy-in. We're going for it. What are some of those early signs to like pull the plug and say, all right, let's not waste any more time with this. This isn't working?
A ton of. I'll tell you good and bad, both of it.
Okay, perfect.
So let me start with the good. The side effects, the really amazing byproducts of the companies who do really good ABM is that your customer retention rate goes up tremendously because you just took the time to figure out who the customers are, and now you're dialed into that. Your marketing and sales, everybody's aligned, your customer success is aligned, so you're getting the right customers. You don't have a leaky bucket, so your retention is going to be better. It's a huge byproduct. Very few companies even talk about it, but we are seeing that all across the board for almost every one of our customers, and that are doing that in a successful way. The second big byproduct, which is really interesting, is sales and marketing will have a common language. Most companies struggle with that. We still hear sales and marketing alignment is no matter what, it's always going to be an issue because there is that rift there. The only way to address that, the best way, is to have a common metric and a common language. Mm-hmm. And to have a common language, you need to know that, oh, we're all working on the same accounts. So that's the language that you can speak, because that's the language that the salespeople understand.
Yeah.
So when you do that, that's a big effort where you're not justifying your existence all the time. You're now focused on the same outcome for your business. So those are like amazing benefits that it doesn't even really matter if you're using a technology or not. Just to go through the process is beautiful. The telltale signs of like, well, this is not working, this is not going in the right direction, are when, and this happened at Terminus, like the first 3 times when we tried to implement ABM, we failed. So wow. We as a company who actually talked about ABM, I as someone who talked about it, the first 3 times we failed. We failed the first time because marketing came up with the list of accounts to go after. Uh-huh. We didn't get the buy-in from sales. The second time we said, okay, screw that. Sales, you come up with the list of accounts. Well, they were not the right accounts, all of them. They were like, well, we want to sell to Nike, and no, that's not how it works. So finally, the third time, we actually came together and realized that we both have to buy into the idea of which accounts we want to go after. So that's a big step. So we ourselves failed twice before we got into the process of figuring it out. And then the big telltale sign that it's not working is nobody's following up on those accounts. The sales team, marketing is doing all these things, and you're pushing your sales team to like follow up and go after it, but they're really not doing that. That's a big telltale sign to know that this is not going to work. I've never like and there's very few things I'll say never. So this is part of it. I've not seen a single company successful in the last 5 years of just talking to thousands where they have been successful only because of marketing.
It has to be effort, correct.
You have to have a sales team on board. If that's not there, no matter what you do, you're going to have the prettiest landing page. You can have the best scoring process. You can have the best campaign strategy. It's not gonna work. And it's a hard truth, but that's why the ABM, the end part, and that's why I wrote ABM is B2B, is like, it is actually a better marketing and sales strategy, not a marketing strategy.
It's true. And I think there's also a lot less guesswork from a marketing standpoint in terms of what content should we produce? No, these are the accounts, these are the types, and this is the content that resonates with these particular types of accounts and the personas within them. So I think at the end of the day, it makes it a little bit easier. I think maybe, yes, there is more effort, but I think the guesswork is no longer there.
It's not. And what's interesting, I was having this conversation this morning. By the way, you should be in the Peak community where they do a bi-weekly jam sessions on ABM. So it's really cool. So this was the conversation that happened this morning. We were talking about everybody, because everybody's in advanced ABM, everybody's been doing it for at least a year or two, or serious about doing it. So it's a very like curated group. And across the board, everyone was spending less money doing ABM. Get this, less money than they for the results that they're trying to have than any other thing they would have ever done before. So when you think about, a lot of people think, well, ABM, that's going to cost me more money. No. What's going to cost you is more planning, more time to get the buy-in, more thought process to make sure that you have a flow, you have this iterative process of testing and all that stuff, but it's not going to cost you more money. And the math is very interestingly simple because if you look at and say you need in my days of like Parda, 30,000 leads to get 1,000 customers, as opposed to you start with the top 500 accounts that you want to go after, or top 200 accounts or 100, whatever that might be. And then so the amount of time and money you can spend on the 100 accounts is going to be monumentally low. The cost of engagement with those 100 accounts is going to be monumentally low than what you would do with 30,000 accounts. So it was a big eye opener for everybody. It's like, wait a minute, we are all spending less, we are more efficient, and we're driving better business outcomes. So it's a really interesting conversation that ABMers are having right now with their CFO and CEO.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm going to take a question from the audience, and then I'm going to go back. Hopefully I won't forget the question, but there's a follow-up to your answer that I want to ask. So let's see, let's do the first question. Is direct mail still a viable channel as prospects work from home? And if so, how would you execute a sort of a DM campaign?
Oh, huge. I mean, I think if a lot of people say, well, we're using Terminus given our brand and how much we have talked about it, and they're doing ABM. And I tell them all the time, no, you're not doing ABM. What you're doing is digital advertising. And if you have Terminus and if you have chat, then because of Terminus, then you still are doing online. The idea of just doing online is not what makes ABM strong. What ABM is 100% strategy. As a matter of fact, if you really go back to history, memory lane here is email marketing, 2000, great. But that email, 2005, marketing automation came about. 2010, predictive came about. The thing that all of these things every 5 years, I think there's a shift that happens. And what happened in all these 5 years is all of these are technologies. ABM is a strategy. That's a big difference. People became automated. Nobody's going to become an ABM expert as just one tool. Mm-hmm. Like somebody can be a Parda expert and they are a marketing automation expert, but ABM expert will never be a Terminus expert. ABM expert will be someone who actually uses something like digital advertising and chat with Terminus, and then you use direct mail, so it's almost high tech and high touch. You combine both of that overlay. That's like a really beautiful thing to happen. And then you're gonna have use Sendoso or Alice or any one of those gifting programs that are out there. Then you're actually combining that very importantly with the sales outreach, using the sales lofts of the world or outreaches of the world, using Zoom infos of the world to figure out you have the right data, using Bombaras of the world to figure out that you have intent, know the intent of the, so it's a combination, it's a full-on strategy. So is direct mail a viable option? 1,000%. And I know Sendoso, I know Dan, I know Alice, they all have figured out now how to ship stuff at home. Like, trust me, they all have. So you don't have to get off. You will get junk in the office, at home as well. If you send junk, you can get amazing direct mails as well if you can figure it out. But the idea of high tech and high touch overlapping actually can deliver great results. And you should definitely have that as part of your mix.
I like that. Our UPEs are actually writing handwritten notes.
Oh, beautiful.
And putting them in envelopes with a sticker and sending them over. And I mean, we don't know who's in the office today or not, but it won't hurt to just try it. It's a, what is it, 44 cents stamp. And yeah, if it gets there, it'll be a big, a nice move. And if it doesn't, then we learn and move forward. So
like, I'll show you, like, this is, I don't know, I need to go find out who am I doing this for, I forgot. But they send me this hot sauces because they know I like hot stuff. So like they send me this hot sauces where it's like, and we're gonna do an event with 3 different CMOs eating some food with hot sauces together. And now that's what's gonna happen. So there's very unique and interesting way, and it's in front of me for the next 2 weeks because whenever we do it, we have to have that. So really great ways to do that. And I think direct mail is a big opportunity out there.
I love that. Thank you. That's a little bit of a hope in the very sort of dark and gloomy world we've been living in the last few months. And yeah, and everybody now, nobody wants to get email and everybody's excited about what's in the mailbox. So What offer?
Everybody has Amazon boxes outside their doors. They just like, me and my wife like, did you order it? I don't know. We all are ordering stuff, something, and there's a box out there. Sometimes you don't even open it for 2 days. We're like so bad, so wrong.
Exactly. All right. There's a lot of questions. I'm so excited about this. All right. So I joined a little late, so pardon if this was already covered. How can we create ABM aligned personal experiences during the time of COVID? And I know one part is direct mail. We just covered that. But what else aside from digital, or maybe what other creative way we can put virtual events in that mix of things that you said, right? That overlay, and at the same time avoiding a little bit of the webinar fatigue that we're all feeling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a webinar fatigue, but what's not a fatigue is if it's relevant. So we started doing something, I think mid-April or May. We're doing an industry-focused webinar series. So instead of doing a webinar, hey, why ABM is important, and some may show, some may not show, we're saying, well, why it's important in healthcare. Inviting the 10 CMOs in healthcare industry to hear from each other. So we become the facilitator of that. We only have 10 to 15 people in that webinar. The show rate for that is 80 to 90% because it's only 10 to 15. We would cap it out after that because we wanted this to be an intimate conversation. There are no slides. There are only 1 or 2 questions that we open up with. We share the state of where the market is going very quickly, and then we would jump into the 2 questions. How are you addressing this problem right now in your industry? And then we shut up. Wow. And it's like the best sessions that happen. So we would have a 45-minute session. People would stay for an hour and a half and go through that over and with their, oh, what's happening with you? Oh, that same thing happening. I have the same problem with my CEO. What about your industry thing? Like what kind of content? So they would be talking about all the healthcare stuff in that example, and we would be just sitting and just listening. A couple of them are customers, and a few of them are not future customers. And now there's a relationship that you just built. So anybody in the during COVID, post-COVID, it's like if you can be in a relationship business, meaning creating relationships, real authentic relationships, as opposed to a one-way conversation. It's like, all right, you all talk. We're here to support you. We will do the work to bring you together. And now you all talk and let them have relationship built without trying to sell them. We saw a tremendous increase in our revenue, a tremendous retention rate in our customers because they felt like, oh my God, it's like a therapy session to go into one of these things, right? So it was like they all wanted it, they all needed it. So yes, there is a fatigue, but there is more fatigue because it's being talked to them sometimes. It's more fatigue when you just have to sit. And like I'll tell, no matter how interesting this conversation might be, if somebody did listen to me or like 10 sessions like this, they'll be fatigued. But if they're part of the conversation, then it's a lot more fun.
So true. Well, Gianna confirmed she's not fatigued on this chat, so we must be doing something right.
That's good. Thank you, Gianna.
And by the way, I really love the idea of bringing together and around the same table, a virtual table, current customers and prospect. That's the best validation. That's the best success story you can ever put out there, really. It's just they're literally, and your product will come up in conversation, even if you're not trying to sell, right? One question will come up and say, well, I use such and such, and this is how it's helped us. So, yeah.
I think people are smart and people are empathetic. People know that you have to sell.
Yeah.
People know there's business. I think we sometimes feel like we treat other people dumber than and think that we are too smart. And I think marketers fall into that trap all day long. And I think if we start treating people with respect and say that, hey, look, we recognize the times are tough, and we recognize that that right now you as an industry are struggling with some of these things. What we want to do is share very quickly what our point of view in it, take 5 minutes of it, and the rest 40 minutes of it is going to be allowing you to share your experiences and go through it. You drop the guard, you tell the truth as it comes, and let people then engage. And if you stay true to your word, people are going to come back and say, hey, thank you for that. You really did me a huge favor. I got a couple of great ideas. I'm going to follow up with you guys. And we have seen inbound come from them afterwards without us even following up saying, hey, can I get a demo of your product?
Yeah.
That's the conversation we all want to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? Selling is not selling at the end of the day.
No,
And just like,
no.
just value. This is what we're offering. You know, if you find a fit in our product, great. If not, we just hope this what was helpful. And actually, that's one of the things that is making the Cybersecurity Marketing Society a nice little successful community, is because people, our members, are not. They don't feel like they're being sold to. They feel like we just created a community, a place where they can be themselves, vent, complain, ask for help, share resources, share ideas. And there's absolutely, no vendor presence, and it's just collaboration. So, I mean, I second that. Whether you're selling a product or just a community, I think it's the same rule across the board.
Yeah, it matters. I think that's why we talked about peak community a minute ago. It's like, to flip my funnel, let's go take that as an example, right? Like, I think we look around and think about, let's just look at some of these companies. HubSpot, talked about that, created Inbound.
Oh yeah.
Salesforce created Dreamforce. You miss Inbound, me too, right?
So much.
I miss too. I was talking to somebody like, hey man, I really, it's great to have all the family time in the world. Like I miss being back in events and meeting people because I'm done looking at the same garbage can man and the leaf blower person every day. Like I need to go and look at some other people, even if they have masks. I just want to see and live and breathe a little bit. Hopefully, people can chat up if they're all feel. Just say amen. Feels like church then. But I think it's a reality of it that all of these companies have created communities, and that has allowed them to grow at a much bigger scale than they have. And I think that is the part that I think every organizations right now, more than ever before, have an opportunity to do. Help create a community around the problem, not the product. Say that again, because this is the part everyone gets wrong. They put their logos and all that kind of stuff, and that's where it messes us. People are smart. They know if you're organizing, they get an email from you, they know who you are. I don't know a single person I connect with on LinkedIn that I know, for example. I know who you are. Like it's just, there's no secret there. So if you treat people and let them know that they're smart and treat them with respect, they already know. But when you do events that are around the problem, not your product, people will actually spend more time with you. It's 100% reverse psychology. So it's the most simple and elegant way to do it, and people will respect that.
It's true. That's true. It's like dating. It's like not being too aggressive, or texting right after the first date. Wait a few days.
Yeah, take some time.
It does take time. All right, cool. So there's a couple of more questions, and I think we answered this one already. Is there a way that sales can follow up in an ABM way?
Yeah.
I think there is.
Yeah, I mean, to sales follow-up is the ultimate secret to a real ABM program. I think I shared this earlier, but I've not seen a single company successful without sales buying into the process. So it's super important. Now, the way the sales process can be ABM centric is the example that I have in the book, and that company continues to do really well, Snowflake. Snowflake, and they ran one-to-one campaigns, and those one-to-one campaigns were ridiculously good, but they were run by interns. They didn't have a director of ABM running those, like building landing pages. They had interns who replicated same landing pages with a logo of the company they were going after. So 80% of the page was the same, 20% was new.
Okay.
So that way they could replicate that. So somebody who comes to snowflake.com/dat page, they already know because they're running ads, they're sending emails, they're doing direct mail to get people to that particular landing page. So you don't need a form. You already know who people would be on that particular page because it's not a generic page. When they do, that's when the salesperson that is on that account should be alerted. That's what Terminus does, and there are other products that can do that too, where you will get a sales alert, and now your salesperson can follow up on a timely manner, not being creepy and saying, hey, Joe or Sally, I just wanted to follow up with you, see if you have any questions. And you can go on the process. The challenge that most salespeople have today that marketing has a great opportunity to address is if you can help your sales team prioritize which accounts to go after, that's what ABM is supposed to do. Your job as a marketer is to help your sales team prioritize which accounts to go after on a daily basis or weekly basis. If you can do that, then you're actually way ahead of the game. That is one area that I would love everybody to take away with is like, how am I helping my sales team prioritize the accounts? That's a question that you should ask. And the answer to those questions will lead to creating programs and process or technologies to go and work on. And I think it's very important part of what ABM is.
That's true. So sometimes ABM can seem daunting. And I think that's why I started this chat with the fact that, is it really true? Is it a myth? Daunting in the way that, for marketers that are part of either a very, very small team, bandwidth wise, or have a really, really tiny budget, the tech stack that is needed for a successful ABM strategy can seem daunting. What is like the bare minimum, most simple tech stack that you need to have a comprehensive strategy, touching the different channels and the entire customer journey?
Well, first of all, I know I'm the co-founder of Terminus. You don't need Terminus to do ABM. Like, I say this all the time, and my team, my sales team, and everybody's like, what? I'm like, if you want to start doing, technology is only going to help you scale. We can absolutely help companies scale and would love to do that. But let's be honest, you don't need any technology. You already have everything you need to do ABM right now. So let me give you an example. You probably have something that has a list of accounts. That might be it could be in your CRM, it could be in a spreadsheet. So you don't, like, as simple as that. Most companies probably have some sort of marketing automation platform or email system that allows you to send them to, right? You probably can connect with something like Sendoso or something like that, Alice, or any of those to do direct mail. And so you don't need another technology unless you want to add something to it. So if you think about it, one of the stories I shared in the book was a company called Pramada, and the director of ABM is Jeremy over there. And Jeremy, essentially, when he started doing ABM for his company, they went from 22 different technologies to 6.
Oh, wow.
So the myth really is that you need a lot of stack. That's the real myth. You actually need less technology because you don't need to do all the 50 million things that you needed to do. So I would almost go and say, go and audit your tech stack. There are probably 4 or 5 technologies that you don't use, so throw them away. And then you'll start refining it to see what you need. And the story, I think in the book, I think we listed down his tech stack, and his tech stack was very simple. He literally went through the framework that we have discovered through all of this, which is the team framework: target, engage, activate, and measure. Target, engage, activate, and measure. Figure out what you need to target, which means your accounts might be in a spreadsheet or CRM. Figure out how you're going to engage with them. Maybe it is through advertising. You can run ads around and direct ads to them, or you can do direct mail, whatever is needed for you. Maybe it's a webinar. You may already have something like that going on. Whatever, how you're going to engage those target accounts that in that particular segment. Then how are you going to activate your sales team? That is the key part, because sales activation is 100% important in that. And then how are you going to measure success? So for each one of them, whatever tool you have today, I can pretty much guarantee if you're on this webinar, you probably already have something that supports parts of these. So to start off, you don't need to get a new technology. To start off, you just need a great strategy to make sure you are able to target, engage, activate, measure. You do that, and then you say, okay, now we can do that for 10 accounts. Okay, it's time to scale up. Let's do for 50, let's do for 100. And that's when technology would make sense. It's the right investment there. But for the most part, you can do that today. Figure out, sit with your salesperson, figure out the 10 accounts you want to go after that can help you win by the end of the year, that will blow the business outcomes. And then by end of this year, you'll have results and money to go and get more technology if you need to.
I like that. Bringing a little bit more hope to us non-believers.
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking these questions, because those maybe I should be writing what are the myths of ABM, and having a bigger tech stack is a big myth of ABM.
Let's do it together. Let's write that book together.
Yeah, that, I mean, I remember like even like Pramada, but I think that was just 2 years ago. I think now more than ever, I hear people are not using marketing automation, right? Because if you are doing the right, if you have, let's say, a 500 accounts you want to go after, and if you're going to create one-to-one experiences for them, why do you need a blasting system? Why do you need lead scoring? Why do you need a landing page? You actually don't need any of that, because you don't need to gate anything, because you already know who you're going after. So it's a very reversal of thought process that we needed all these things. We needed a form because we were generating too many leads and we needed to qualify them, right? But if you're doing account-based, you already qualified them. That's why you're going after them. So why do we put them again behind a gate and create more friction for them? There's no need for that. So you reverse all of it. You actually would reduce, you don't need a form. So that means you probably are using unbounce or whatever. You actually don't need that. There's no reason for this. So it's a very different way of looking at it. Like if you know which accounts you're going after, you don't need a lead form. You don't need a page where they have to download an ebook. You really need to engage them. And as soon as they come to your website to that specific page, you actually alert your sales team. That's really what you need.
I feel like you took me back to 2006 when inbound was so huge and it was new, and it was like, yeah, you should be doing inbound. Stop buying lists.
Yes, yes. Oh, it's the same. Yeah. They came up with their own flywheel now, right? And what's interesting about that, real quick, Maria, is that both Brian and Dharmesh, they're investors in Terminus. Just an inside story that a lot of people don't know. So when inbound, when we started in 2015, they were interested in us because of the way we started, and they looked at the way we created the ABM movement the same way they created the HubSpot inbound movement. So it's really just they're investors in it, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like us marketers, we get excited about these things, even though there's learning curve. We need to figure out how I'm going to make it work in my ecosystem. How am I going to convince my boss? But there is a little bit of excitement to, ooh, this is new. What can we do with this? So that's the kind of feeling I'm getting right now as you're confirming that, you know, your ABM dreams can come true. They are not as hazy as you think they are. So that's great.
Absolutely, they can.
Awesome. So I'm going to do a few more questions, and wow, time flies when you're having fun. We've got 13 minutes left and a few other questions from the audience, but I do want to, I had a question whether ABM is killing the MQL, and I think you probably just confirmed that with
I mean, you tell me if I'm like, maybe I'm smoking weed here, but I don't know. I mean, like, in a perfect ABM world, why would you qualify that is already a qualified account? It's like when you can see through the doorbell thing, like who's standing outside, you're still ask them, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's that ridiculous. It's like, okay, well, I know I can see you, but you tell me who you are again. Like it makes no sense. Like it's like having a ring account on your door and still asking people, who are you? Not needed. That's friction.
There's definitely a lot of truth to that, but I don't know if this is the traditionalist in me. But I still feel like I need in my tech stack, and I love automation. I love all things, you know, MarTech. I feel like I still need that traditional setup, right? That traditional funnel happening in the background, and then add on a nice layer of ABM to it to enrich it. But I feel like going without that and just doing ABM makes me feel like I'm just going blind. And I don't know, that's just my control mechanism over a database and control over lead scoring and all of that. But that's my take on that.
Yeah, and I hear you, and you're not alone. I mean, everyone who have come from our backgrounds, we all have to go through a therapy and it's almost like going through a rehab of figuring out how do you look at it differently, because it is a different way and it is really challenging at first. But here's something that might create, again, more hope. The day we can have less pressure on the amount of stuff we have to create externally, And the fact that you can actually spend more time with who you really need to spend more time with,
Mhm.
that's the crux of ABM. That's what ABM should do. If that's what's happening, then that's great. If you feel like you're on a hamster wheel where you're constantly just getting more, running to just have a couple of days of rest and then you're back into the field, well, that's what sales does. Marketing shouldn't be doing that. Marketing's job is to make sure that sales doesn't have to do that all the time. So I'll go back to the same point. The question we should be asking is not, do we need all these things or not? The question should be asking, are we as marketers helping sales to prioritize the accounts they need to go to meet their quota this month, this week, this quarter?
Yeah.
And if we can clearly answer that, then I think big part of it is that we are probably not doing our job as much, because all these things will only keep us busy. But if the salesperson is not busy with the right accounts, we are going to lose our jobs. Sure. So it's a really interesting dynamic. So you're not alone. I've gone through this process myself. I felt like it's a process of almost reimagining yourself as a marketer. So somewhat you have to start fresh and say, what if I didn't have any systems? What if you didn't have any of these things? What would you do? Clean up the whiteboard tomorrow in your office or at home and just start writing down, okay, if I don't know about leads, if I didn't know about systems, if I didn't know about technologies, what would I do? And I'll guarantee you the answer will surprise you.
That's really interesting. I think I'm going to pose this question in our society Slack group and see what the answer is. But you just give me an idea with the whole therapy thing. I think we need to create a therapy center somewhere in the Arizona desert or something, and call it a marketing rehab center and just invite marketers to come.
It's a rehab, there's across the street, there's everybody who is in the marketing automation and stuff. And then you come back and there's an ABM center over here. You can just pick which one you want to go in.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a path there for everyone. And then when Gartner and Forrester came in and say that, hey, even ABM would become B2B, I think it's a sign that it's time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my gosh, this has been so eye-opening. I think I learned so much, and I hope the audience and everyone is taking away a few things back to their team, back to their boss, or even to their husband tonight for some pillow talk and say, did you know ABM is the new marketing therapy? This has been amazing. Thanks, Kelly. I think I'm gonna go with that new business idea. I'm gonna open that therapy center. I'll invite you.
I think we all need it. Let's be honest, we all need it.
Again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time from your day, busy afternoon, on a Thursday end of the week when you're trying to get everything done for the week. So really, really appreciate the time. And please come on again and also let's do a LinkedIn Live and let's keep this going, because I feel like I need to take 2 and 3 of this.
Let's do it. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for letting us entertain you a little bit in the process, and connect with me and Maria as well. Like, I love to engage and talk and debate on things like that. None of what I said is something that is like has to be. I've learned so much and I continue to learn, which is what keeps it fun and interesting. So share your examples, stories, your frustrations, and let the debate continue and the conversation continue.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll share the recording with you in a few days once I have it nice and edited. And yeah, hopefully we'll talk again soon.
That's good. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.